Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Sarah was 8 years old when she understood what it meant to be forgotten. The scene stayed etched in her memory like a faded photograph. She was in the living room, holding a drawing she'd made at school. It showed a family of 4 holding hands, with a yellow sun in the corner. Her teacher had stuck a gold star at the top of the page. Her mom was on the phone with her grandmother, talking about Jennifer. Her older sister had just won the award for Best Student of the semester. Sarah waited. She held the paper with both hands, feeling pride swell in her chest. When her mom hung up, she stepped closer. "Mom, look what I made." Her mom glanced over her reading glasses, gave a half-smile, and said, "That's nice, sweetie," before going back to the shopping list she was writing. No questions about the drawing. No comment about the gold star. Just a distracted pat on the head, and that was it. Sarah tucked the drawing into her bedroom drawer. She never showed it to anyone. Things had always been this way. Michael, the middle child, was the family genius. By 15, he was already programming computers and fixing neighbors' electronics. Jennifer was the charismatic one, the one everyone wanted around, the one who landed a job before even finishing college. And Sarah? Sarah was just Sarah. She tried. God knows she tried. She woke up earlier to set the breakfast table before anyone came downstairs. She lined up her dad's shoes by the front door. She studied until 11 at night to get better grades. But when she brought home a report card with 3 grades above an 8, she only heard a "good job," while her dad kept reading the newspaper. Meanwhile, Michael got dinners at restaurants every time he brought home a math Olympiad medal. And Jennifer? Jennifer could show up late, forget to do chores, go out with friends without telling anyone. It was all forgiven because she had that special way with people. Once, when Sarah was about 12, she memorized a 20-stanza poem to recite at her school performance. She spent weeks practicing in front of the mirror, perfecting every gesture, every dramatic pause. On the big day, she invited her parents. Her mom said she'd try to make it on time. Her dad said he had an important meeting. Neither of them showed up. Sarah recited the poem in front of 200 people. She got a standing ovation. The principal praised her performance. But when she got home and told them, her mom just said, "What a shame I missed it, sweetie. But you know how it is, I had to take Jennifer to that internship interview." Sarah locked herself in her room and cried herself to sleep. That was the day she learned the rule: love had to be earned. And if you were too ordinary, too invisible, you simply went unnoticed. People only had so much attention to give, and you had to do something extraordinary to deserve even a crumb of it. At 16, she started looking for validation in other ways. She agreed with everything her friends said just to be accepted into the group. She lent money she took from her allowance to friends who asked. She did other people's school assignments just to hear a "thanks, you're the best." Any crumb of recognition was worth it. There was a guy at school, Jason, who started talking to her during breaks. Sarah thought someone finally saw her. She spent weeks waking up earlier to pick out the right outfit, styling her hair differently, waiting for the moment he'd show up. They talked about bands, movies, plans for the future. Until one day she overheard Jason talking to his friends behind the library. "Sarah? Oh, she's cool. Kind of boring, but she helps me with math." Boring. Those 2 words echoed in her head for months. By the time she finished high school, Sarah had learned how to protect herself. She built high walls around her heart. She smiled when she needed to, spoke when necessary, but never truly gave herself away. Because giving herself away meant handing someone the power to confirm she was insignificant. And she'd already had enough confirmation for a lifetime. She enrolled in business school because it was practical. She got a job at a small accounting office because it paid the bills. She rented a modest apartment because it was all she could afford. Life settled into a gray, predictable routine. Wake up, work, come home, sleep. Weekends alone watching old TV shows. No great joys, but no big disappointments either. That's how she turned 23, a beautiful young woman, but one who walked with her shoulders slumped. She smiled when someone complimented her, but the smile never reached her eyes. And every night before bed, she'd stare at the ceiling and wonder when she'd ever feel important to someone. The answer came on a rainy Tuesday in March. Sarah had forgotten her umbrella at home and was soaked when she walked into the coffee shop near work. Her hair dripped water, her shirt clung to her body, and she could barely hold her bag and phone at the same time. She ordered a coffee and went to sit in a corner, trying to dry off with the paper napkins she'd grabbed from the counter. That's when she heard the voice. "You're gonna need more napkins than that." Sarah looked up. A man in his 30s stood beside the table, holding a stack of napkins and a genuine smile. He was handsome in a simple way, brown hair, light eyes, stubble on his chin. He wore a blue dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. "Thanks," she said, taking the napkins. "Can I sit?" Sarah hesitated. Good-looking men usually had ulterior motives. But there was something different about him. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, as if he really saw her. "Sure." He introduced himself as David. He owned a new store that sold imported perfumes in the area. They talked for 40 minutes about random things, traffic, their favorite kinds of coffee, the worst jobs they'd ever had. He laughed at her jokes. He asked about her work, her family, what she liked to do on weekends. And most importantly, he listened. Really listened. There was something in the way David paid attention that disarmed Sarah. He leaned forward when she spoke. He asked questions about little details she mentioned. When she told him about her boring job at the accounting office, he wanted to know what she really wanted to do with her life. "No one's ever asked me that," Sarah said, and realized it was true. "Well, I'm asking now," he replied, smiling. She thought for a moment. "I guess I'd like to have a life that meant something, you know? To make a difference for someone. To matter." David took her hand across the table. "You already matter." And the way he said it made Sarah believe him. They exchanged numbers. He texted her that same night, "It was great meeting you today. When can I see you again?" Sarah reread the message 5 times before replying. They made plans for the weekend. They started meeting once a week. Then twice a week. Then every day. David took her to restaurants she'd never been to. He sent good morning and good night texts. He called just to hear her voice. He told her she was the most interesting person he'd ever met. For the first time in her life, Sarah felt special. There was one particular night, about 3 months after they'd met, that stayed etched in her memory. They were having dinner at a small Italian restaurant. David was telling her about an eccentric customer who'd bought 3 bottles of the store's most expensive perfume just because the name was in French. Sarah laughed so hard she had tears in her eyes. In the middle of her laughter, David stopped talking and just looked at her. "What?" Sarah asked, still smiling. "You're beautiful when you laugh like that." "Like what?" "Without worrying. Without trying to be someone else. Just being you." Sarah felt something break inside her. Those walls she'd built over the years started to crack. Because David saw her. He really saw her. 6 months after their meeting at the coffee shop, David asked her to be his girlfriend at that same Italian restaurant. He'd reserved the corner table, the same one they'd sat at the first time. There were candles. Sarah said yes before he'd even finished his sentence. In the months that followed, Sarah floated. Friends commented that she seemed different, lighter. Even her parents noticed. "You seem happy," her mom said once, as if it were a surprise. And she was. Because David chose her every day. Out of all the women in the world, he chose her. David met her parents over a Sunday lunch. Sarah was nervous, but he was perfect. He complimented her mom's cooking, chatted with her dad about business, made Jennifer laugh with funny stories from the store. After they left, her mom called. "He's wonderful, Sarah. You got lucky. Got lucky." As if dating David were a lottery prize she'd won by chance. As if she herself were so ordinary that the only way she could land a good man was through pure luck. But Sarah pushed the thought away. She was happy. That's all that mattered. 2 years later, they got married. The ceremony was small, just close family and a few friends. Sarah's parents came, but spent most of the time chatting with David's guests. Michael sent his congratulations by text because he was traveling for work. Jennifer showed up but left early because she had another commitment. Sarah pretended it was fine. Because she had David. And David was all she needed. The first few years of marriage were the best of her life. David's store thrived. He started importing exclusive perfumes from France and Italy, and soon had regular customers paying fortunes for rare fragrances. There was even a feature about the store in a luxury city magazine. Sarah quit her job at the accounting office to help with the store's administrative side. But in truth, she spent most of her time taking care of the house. She woke up early to make coffee just the way he liked it. She picked out clothes she knew he thought looked good on her. She planned special dinners for when he came home tired. Every Friday, she made homemade pasta because David loved it. She researched new recipes, tested different sauces, bought special ingredients. And when he came home, tasted it, and said, "You're the best wife in the world," Sarah felt all that effort was worth it. Every smile from him, every "thanks, love," every "you're perfect," was another brick building that feeling that she finally mattered. That she'd found her place in the world. That she was enough. They had rituals. Sunday mornings they made pancakes together in the kitchen. David handled the batter while Sarah prepared the fruit. Thursday nights were movie night, always some old comedy. Saturday mornings they walked in the park near their house before the crowds arrived. Sarah treasured those memories like jewels. She photographed the moments, wrote down phrases David said, made physical albums with movie tickets and napkins from restaurants where they'd dined. She wanted to remember everything. Because for the first time, she had a beautiful story to tell. But then came that afternoon in September. Sarah was coming back from the grocery store. The bag in the back seat held ingredients for David's favorite dish, salmon with caper sauce. She'd even bought the specific wine he liked to drink with fish. She was thinking about how much he'd enjoy it, how his eyes would light up when he came home and smelled the food. The light turned red. Sarah hit the brakes. The other driver was on his phone. He sped through the crosswalk and slammed into the side of Sarah's car with such force that everything turned into a blur. She remembered the sound. The shattering glass. The crunching metal. The impact throwing her body against the seatbelt. Her own voice screaming. The sensation of floating, even while trapped in the seat. And then, just silence. She woke up in the hospital 6 hours later. David was sitting by her bed, pale-faced, red-eyed. When she opened her eyes, he took her hand and started to cry. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered. "When the hospital called, Sarah, I thought I'd lost you." His voice was broken. Sarah wanted to comfort him, but could barely move her lips. Everything hurt. Every breath was agony. Doctors came in and explained the situation. 3 broken ribs. A fractured pelvis. Moderate trauma to her lower spine. She'd need to stay immobilized for weeks, maybe months. Surgery would be required to insert pins in her pelvis. Recovery would be long and painful. "But you're going to be okay," David said, gripping her hand tightly. "I'll take care of you. I promise." Sarah spent 23 days in the hospital. David came every day after work. He brought flowers, magazines, chocolate. He talked about the store, the funny customers who showed up, how much he missed her at home. He held her hand while she cried in pain during physical therapy. One day, she woke up screaming in the middle of the night. The pain was so intense it felt like her body was on fire. Nurses rushed in and increased her pain meds. David arrived in the morning with dark circles under his eyes. "I spent the whole night thinking about you," he said. "I called the hospital 3 times to check on you." When she was finally discharged and returned home, Sarah still needed a wheelchair to get around. David hired a nurse to stay during the day. He adapted the house, installed grab bars in the bathroom, rearranged the bedroom so she could easily reach everything, set up a call button by the bed in case she needed help at night. He was still attentive. He helped her bathe, changed her bandages, prepared her meals. But Sarah started to notice something. The way David looked at her had changed. Before, his eyes would light up when she entered the room. Now he looked at her with an expression Sarah took weeks to decode: pity. He felt sorry for her. The first night he slept in the guest room, David explained it was temporary. He was afraid he'd roll over in his sleep and hurt her. Sarah thanked him for his consideration. But when 1 week turned into 2, and 2 turned into a month, she started to understand. He was avoiding her. His visits to her room grew shorter. He'd come in, ask if she needed anything, and leave. During dinner, which used to be a time of connection where they'd talk for hours, he'd eat quickly and return to his office. He said he had backlogged work. That the store was busier than usual. That he needed to sort out supplier issues. Sarah tried to start conversations. She'd ask about his day, the new perfumes that had arrived, that eccentric customer who always came back. But his answers were short and distracted. He'd look at his phone while responding. 3 months after the accident, she could finally walk without help. Physical therapy was working. The pain had lessened considerably. But when she looked in the mirror, she saw a stranger. Her body was different, thinner, more fragile. A long scar ran across her abdomen where the surgeons had operated. She covered it with loose clothing, but she knew it was there. That's when the comments started. "Have you thought about going back to the gym?" David asked one morning over coffee. "I think it'd do you good to get back in shape." Sarah swallowed hard. She could barely climb stairs without pain. And he was talking about the gym? "The doctor said I should take it easy," she replied, trying to keep her voice calm. "Yeah, but it's been 4 months. You need to move a bit, you know. Staying still will only make things worse." She felt something tighten in her chest. That old, familiar feeling. The feeling of being inadequate. The comments continued over the following weeks. About the clothes she wore. "That shirt's too baggy, it makes you look sick." About her hair. "Are you going to dye it? Some gray hairs are showing." About little things he'd never mentioned before. Sarah started doing more. She cleaned the house even when it hurt. She cooked elaborate meals even when she barely had the strength. She bought new clothes, wore more makeup, tried to be the wife he wanted, the wife she'd been before the accident. But David stayed distant. 6 months after the accident, he was still sleeping in the guest room. Still leaving early and coming home late. Still looking at his phone during conversations. And when she tried to get closer, when she'd put a hand on his shoulder or suggest watching a movie together like they used to, he always had an excuse. "I'm tired, love. Another time. I need to finish some reports. How about you watch it and tell me about it later?" Each rejection felt like a stab. Sarah started having insomnia. She'd lie awake for hours wondering what she'd done wrong. Was the accident her fault? Should she have paid more attention? Should she have avoided that street? Should she have recovered faster? It was on a Friday night that everything became clear. Sarah was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. It was almost midnight. Through the wall, she could hear David in the guest room. He was laughing. Talking on the phone with someone. His voice was lively, full of energy, the same tone he used with her in the early months of their relationship. Seriously? That's amazing, she heard him say. More laughter. You always make me laugh. Sarah's stomach turned. Who was it? Who made David laugh like that while she sat alone in the next room? She got up and went to the door. She thought about knocking, asking. But she just stood there, listening to the muffled conversation through the wall. 20 minutes. 30. He kept laughing, talking, alive. When he finally hung up, Sarah returned to bed. And there, lying in the dark, she understood. He was tired of her. Of her broken body, her slow recovery, the imperfect version she'd become. He wanted the Sarah from before, the one who made pancakes on Sunday mornings without complaining about back pain. The one who wore tight dresses and high heels. The one who was perfect. And for the first time in 8 months, she felt something other than physical pain or sadness. She felt anger. Anger at having devoted years of her life to being perfect for him. Anger at having dropped everything to serve, please, mold herself into what he wanted. Anger at having believed that with this man, she'd finally be enough. But mostly, anger at herself. For falling into the same trap again. For placing her entire worth in someone else's hands. For believing that being loved meant being perfect. That 8-year-old girl holding the drawing with the gold star was dying inside her. The girl who begged for attention, who shaped herself to please, who accepted crumbs of affection as if they were feasts. That night, Sarah made a decision. If he was tired of her, fine. She was tired too. Tired of begging for attention. Tired of trying to be perfect. Tired of feeling small. And if love was something that had to be earned every day, if it disappeared the moment you became inconvenient, then maybe it was time to stop chasing it. Maybe it was time to take what she wanted, however she wanted, without asking permission. In place of that invisible girl, something darker was being born. Something hungry for control, for power, for feeling desired, even if just for a moment. Something tired of being the victim, the forgotten one, the one left behind. Sarah turned on her side and closed her eyes. The sound of David's laughter still echoed in her memory. Tomorrow would be a different day. Sarah started slowly. A dating app. Photos where the scar wasn't visible. Conversations that lasted just long enough to set up a meeting. She chose men who complimented her, who desired her, who made her feel alive again. The first was Marcus. They met at a bar across town. He told her she was beautiful. They had sex in his car. Sarah went home feeling something she'd forgotten, power. For the first time in months, someone wanted her. Then came another. And another. Sarah created a routine. David left early for the store, she'd meet someone in the afternoon and return before he got home. She'd take a long shower, erase every trace. And when David came home, distant as ever, she pretended everything was fine. Because it was. For the first time in 8 months, Sarah felt like she had control over something. But then she met Ryan. Ryan was different. Younger, more intense. He texted her constantly. Wanted to see her every day. Said he was in love. Sarah tried to keep her distance, but Ryan persisted. And the more she pulled away, the more he chased her. You deserve someone who values you, Ryan said. Leave that idiot husband and be with me. Sarah explained it was complicated. That she needed time. But Ryan was obsessed. It all fell apart on a Thursday. David came home earlier than usual. His face was pale. He walked in, tossed his coat on the couch, and looked at Sarah. "We need to talk." Her heart raced. "About what?" "A guy showed up at the store today. Ryan. Said you two are having an affair. That you're unhappy with me. That I'm a terrible husband." Sarah felt the floor disappear beneath her. "David, I already knew." Silence. "What?" David took a deep breath. "I know everything, Sarah. The apps, the meetups, all of them. I've known for months." "How did you? Do you think I'm an idiot? The messages you delete but stay in the cloud. The places you go that the car's GPS logs. The new clothes you buy that I've never seen you wear at home." He gave a bitter smile. "I own a store, Sarah. I know how to take inventory. And you left traces everywhere." Sarah's legs gave out. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was gathering evidence. For the divorce." He pulled an envelope from his briefcase. "My lawyer already has everything, texts, photos, hotel receipts. All of it." "David, please," Sarah started crying. "I only did this because you were distant, because you made me feel ugly, inadequate." "Distant?" His voice rose. "Sarah, you spent 8 months recovering from an accident. I took care of you every single day. Every day. And yes, I was exhausted. The store was eating me alive, and I was dealing with serious financial problems I hid from you so you wouldn't get stressed during recovery. You slept in another room. Because you had 3 broken ribs. The doctor recommended it. And when you got better, I tried to come back, but you pushed me away. You said it still hurt, that you needed space." Sarah froze. It was true. She'd said that. The comments about the gym, about your clothes. "I was trying to help you feel better. You kept complaining that you felt ugly. I tried to motivate you, and you took it as criticism. And that night on the phone? Laughing with someone? My brother, Sarah. My brother who lives in Seattle and who I talk to once a month." David ran a hand over his face. "You made up an entire story in your head. Decided I was cheating on you, that I was the villain, and used that to justify what you did. I didn't know. You never asked. You never talked to me. You just assumed and went for revenge." He picked up his briefcase. "I'm filing for divorce. You have 1 week to leave the house. My lawyer will contact you. David, please, give me another chance. I love you. You don't love me, Sarah. You love the idea of being loved. And when you thought I stopped loving you, you went looking for it in anyone who'd give you attention." He walked to the door. "Oh, and cancel your cards. They're all blocked. They were linked to the joint account, and I've removed your access." Sarah fell to her knees. "Don't do this. Please." But David was already gone. 3 months later, Sarah was in a tiny apartment she'd managed to rent with the little money she had saved. The divorce was quick. David had too much evidence. She lost everything. She tried calling her parents. Her mom answered, heard the story, and said, "You've always been so impulsive, Sarah. When are you going to learn?" Jennifer sent a text, "What a mess you made, huh?" Michael didn't reply at all. Sarah was alone again. Just like she'd always been. But one night, staring at the ceiling of that tiny apartment, she finally understood something she'd never grasped before. She'd spent her whole life placing her worth in other people's hands. Waiting for someone to make her feel enough. And when David did that, she became addicted to that feeling. And when she thought she was losing it, she panicked and destroyed everything. The problem was never being invisible. It was believing she needed someone else's gaze to exist. Sarah grabbed a notebook and started writing. About the 8-year-old girl. About her mistakes. About the pain. And for the first time, she was telling her own story, not to be seen, not to be loved. Just to exist. And that, finally, was enough. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.